Why do you need to control everything and everyone? You think it's about keeping things in order. You tell yourself you're just trying to do the right thing, make your kids better, keep the house clean, get things done. But let's get brutally honest for a second. That constant tension in your jaw, that sharpness in your voice, that urgency to correct every little thing, that's not power. That's pain. And it's not just yours. It's your childhood's. This need to discipline, to micromanage, to be the rock that never cracks. That's not who you are, that's who you had to become. You were shaped by environments where emotions weren't safe, where softness was weakness, where mistakes were punished, not understood. So now, you overcompensate. You equate strictness with love. You think if you just control enough, protect enough, discipline enough, no one will ever feel the way you did, including you. But here's the truth that hurts before it heals. That voice you use to correct your child. That tone that shuts down your partner. That pressure you put on yourself to always get it right. That's not your adult self talking. That's your wounded inner child yelling, terrified, overwhelmed, desperate to never feel powerless again. And until you face that, until you stop pretending that discipline equals love, you will keep bleeding out psychic energy, trying to fix things on the outside that are broken on the inside. You don't yell because your child spilled juice. You yell because deep down, chaos makes you feel unsafe. You don't clamp down on your teenager's independence because you don't trust them. You clamp down because you remember what it felt like to be unprotected, and you swore you'd never let that happen again. You don't demand order because it's noble. You demand it because unpredictability still haunts you, like it did when you were 6 years old and walking on emotional eggshells. Stop pretending it's about standards. Stop telling yourself it's just how you were raised. That's not a reason. That's a trauma echo. Carl Jung called this projection, the act of putting what's unconscious inside of you onto the people around you. You're not just raising your child, you're reacting to the unmet needs of your inner child. You're not just managing a household, you're managing emotional ghosts that were never laid to rest. And this matters because the stricter you are, the more you perpetuate the very cycle you swore to break. You don't just pass on your genetics, you pass on your neuroses, your control, your rigidity, your need for validation. You may think it's love, but love without freedom is just fear in disguise. Here's the equation no one taught you. Wound, persona, over-control, emotional exhaustion, resentment, repeat. You've built a persona, a mask, the strong one, the no-nonsense parent, the one who always has it together. But it's a performance, and performances drain you. That's why you feel depleted. Not because parenting is hard, it is, but because you're using all your psychic energy to suppress what you haven't healed. You're trying to mold your kids while your own mold is cracked. And if you don't pause now, if you don't wake up to this cycle, you'll burn out. Or worse, you'll raise children who need therapy not because of what you did, but because of what you couldn't admit. Let that sink in. You don't heal the world by pretending. You heal it by confronting. So here's your first challenge. Stop defending your control. Start examining it. Ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of losing? Whose voice am I really repeating when I say this? Would I speak to my own younger self the way I'm speaking to my child right now? And don't look away from the answer. This isn't about guilt, it's about responsibility. Because you're not bad, you're just hurt. And you've never been taught what to do with that hurt, except bury it under more rules, more pressure, more armor. But today, you're being asked to drop the armor, just enough to see what's really going on beneath the surface. Because if you don't, you will keep parenting from pain instead of presence. This is the crossroads moment. Keep doubling down on the act, or break the cycle and start the work. Stop pretending the fire is out just because the house looks clean. The smoke is still inside you, and it's not going away by itself. You wear the mask well, the responsible one, the organized one, the one who never lets anything slip. But underneath, there's a child who never got to be messy, never got to cry without punishment, never got to be comforted when they were scared, only corrected. You think you've moved on, but every time you snap at someone for not doing it right, that child is speaking. Every time you say, "because I said so," it's not authority, It's fear. It's the echo of not having your own voice heard, so now you silence others. Let's talk about your persona. Carl Jung described it as the mask you wear to survive society, but for too many of us, that mask becomes a prison. It looks like strength, but it's just scaffolding. The real you buried that a long time ago, because when you were honest, it cost you something: affection, approval, safety. So now you perform. You wake up every morning and armor up, hyper-productive, emotionally distant, always on task, no mistakes, no softness, no room for error. And people respect you, but they don't know you. Not really, because you don't even let yourself know you. And here's the brutal truth: you can't connect deeply with your child while you're disconnected from yourself. You can't offer emotional safety to others if you haven't created it within. Because connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability terrifies the wounded child in you. So you tighten the reins, you control, you overschedule, you over-explain, you nitpick the details because you're terrified of the big picture, that maybe, just maybe, you've been operating from fear this entire time. Let's call it what it is. You weren't taught emotional regulation, you were taught suppression. You weren't shown self-worth, you were trained to earn it through performance. That conditioning didn't vanish when you turned 18. It turned into your parenting style, your leadership style, your relationship patterns. You're not just reacting to your child, you're reacting to your past. That's what Jung meant when he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You think this is just how you are, but it's not. It's how you've adapted to survive. Now the question is, do you want to keep surviving or do you want to live? Because surviving means control. Living means trust. Surviving means silencing your emotions. Living means listening to them. Surviving means punishing the parts of your child that look like the parts of you that were never accepted. Living means rewriting the story. Let's talk shadow. Jung said the shadow holds all the parts of ourselves we reject. The messy, needy, scared, soft, insecure pieces. You've exiled those parts, but they don't go away. They show up in your parenting, in your defensiveness, in your reactivity, in your exhaustion. And here's the paradox. The more you deny the shadow, the more power it has over you. That inner child, the one who just wanted to be loved without conditions, is still waiting. Not for perfection, not for achievement, but for permission to be human. You think you're protecting your child by being hard on them, but really, you're protecting yourself from having to feel the things you never got to process. It's time to face the truth. You've confused emotional control with emotional strength. You've mistaken fear for leadership. You've equated silence with maturity. But strength isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to hold emotion without collapsing. Leadership isn't control. It's clarity. Maturity isn't shutting down. It's staying open, especially when it's hard. And here's where the work begins. You reclaim power not by tightening your grip, but by softening it, by realizing that the world won't fall apart if the dishes aren't done, that your child won't become a failure because they got a B, that you are not weak because you feel tired. You are not your mask. You are not your perfection. You are not your fear. You are the adult now. And it's your responsibility to stop acting out your pain on people you love, including yourself. So what now? Start listening, start noticing. When you feel the urge to correct, pause. When you feel the panic rise because something's out of order, breathe. When your kid makes a mistake, don't default to punishment. Ask yourself, am I reacting from now or from then? This is reparenting. This is individuation. This is the real inner work, not in journals or affirmations, but in the everyday moments where you break the cycle in real time. And yes, it's hard. But guess what? You've already done the hardest part. You survive what once broke you. Now it's time to integrate, to take what you've carried and choose actively, decisively to set it down. You don't have to keep repeating the pattern. You don't have to pass it on. The story can change if you're willing to face what's underneath the script. It starts with one decision. You stop reacting and start choosing. That moment when your child spills the juice, when your partner forgets something, when a colleague misses a deadline, pause. Don't go into autopilot. Don't let your nervous system drag you back into survival mode. Because that's what it is, survival mode. Your mind races, your body tenses, you feel that flash of irritation, but it's deeper than that. It's old. It's the residue of being punished for little things, shamed for not being perfect, ignored when you needed comfort, and now in a split second your brain sends the same message. Fix it, control it, shut it down. Shut it down. But here's your power. You don't have to obey that message anymore. You're the adult. You have a choice. You can interrupt the pattern. You can choose to speak calmly. You can choose to take a breath. You can choose to let it go. And no, that doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. This isn't about passivity. This is about maturity. The kind of maturity that doesn't need to prove itself through domination. It's about authority, not aggression. Leadership, not fear. Stability, not suppression. This is where you build new muscle, emotional self-command. You train it like anything else, with practice, with failure, with consistency. You become the parent your inner child needed. So you can finally stop parenting from panic. You stop overcorrecting because now you trust yourself, you trust your presence, you trust your love, and that trust radiates. Jung called this the path of individuation, becoming whole, integrated, sovereign. No longer a slave to your past, no longer fractured between your image and your essence, because until you do this work, you will keep bleeding your childhood pain onto people who didn't cause it. You will keep leaking energy trying to maintain control. You will burn out under the weight of an identity that was never yours to begin with. You think you're being strong by keeping it together, but real strength, that's allowing yourself to come undone. Safely, consciously, with care, because here's what happens when you stop parenting from fear. You start hearing your child. You stop correcting everything and start connecting. You stop demanding they become what you never could and start letting them become who they already are. And in doing so, you become who you were meant to be all along. Not the rigid parent, not the performative adult, but the whole human, grounded, honest, and free. Let's talk practical shifts, because insight without action is just spiritual entertainment. Here's what you do next. Start recognizing your triggers like data, not failure. Data. When you feel the tightness rise in your chest, pause. Ask, what emotion is under this? What memory does this resemble? Create space between the trigger and the response. You don't owe anyone a reaction in real time. You owe yourself reflection, response on your terms. Reframe your urgency. Most things aren't emergencies. Your kid wearing mismatched clothes, not a crisis. The house being messy, not trauma. Late homework, not identity collapse. Repeat these truths until they rewire you. I don't owe perfection to anyone. My presence is more powerful than my pressure. I can hold discomfort without trying to escape it. I'm not reacting, I'm choosing. That's it. One thought, one breath, one moment at a time. That's how reparenting happens. In the small spaces where you interrupt old patterns and insert new truths, you can build a family that doesn't run on fear. You can build a life that doesn't depend on performance. You can stop apologizing for being human. And you can protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You don't owe everyone access to your nervous system. You don't owe your child a version of you that's always correcting, always fixing, always managing. You owe them your truth. And the truth is, you're still healing. And that's okay. You're allowed to heal while leading. You're allowed to mess up, apologize, and try again. That's not weakness, that's modeling. When you regulate your own nervous system, you teach your children how to regulate theirs. When you own your triggers, you teach them how to own their emotions. When you stop blaming yourself or them, you teach them how to live in accountability without shame. And that is how generational cycles end, not with perfection, but with presence. Not with fear, but with awareness. Not with pressure, but with truth. You break the chain not by being the perfect parent, but by being the conscious one. And when you do that, everything changes. Because the most powerful thing you can offer the world, your partner, your children, yourself, is a version of you that is no longer ruled by ghosts. It's time to come home to yourself, to choose clarity over chaos, peace over pressure, healing over hiding. Because you are not just raising a child, you are re-raising yourself. And this is where the real work begins. No more excuses, no more spiritual bypassing, no more pretending it's just your personality, that strictness, that overcorrection, that unrelenting need to be in charge. It's not who you are, it's what you learned. And it's long past time to unlearn it, because here's the truth you can't run from. You're not the child anymore. You're the adult now, which means you have the power to stop projecting your pain onto others and start protecting what matters. Your peace, your relationships, your inner alignment. You don't need more control. You need more consciousness. You don't need to tighten the grip. You need to loosen the armor, because the more you grip, the more you squeeze the life out of the moment. And the moment is all you have. That's where healing happens, not in some future where you finally fixed everything, but right here, right now. And it starts with ownership. Own your voice, own your energy, own your story. Because here's the truth. Most of your exhaustion isn't from doing too much. It's from denying too much. Denying your anger, denying your needs, denying your grief, denying your softness. And all that denial, it doesn't disappear. It shows up in your tone, your tension, your temper. It leaks out in sighs, sarcasm, shutdowns. It floods out in moments of rage you swear you didn't see coming. It's time to see it coming and choose something else. And that choice starts with this mindset. I am not obligated to carry what was never mine to begin with. Not your parents' emotional patterns, not your culture's expectations, not your childhood's ghosts. You were taught to be strict because being soft felt dangerous, because feeling meant vulnerability, because vulnerability meant risk. But that's not the world you live in now unless you keep rebuilding it around yourself. So stop, tear down the structure, walk out of the cage. Here's how you build a new one. From presence, from truth, from power. You stop parenting reactively and start parenting relationally. You stop managing emotions like problems and start meeting them like signals. You stop trying to fix your children and start learning from them. Because every time your child cries, delays, argues, or messes up, that's not an attack on you. It's not a challenge to your authority. It's not a betrayal of all the sacrifices you made. It's a test of your healing. Do you repeat the past, or do you create a future? Do you let the wounded child drive the car, or do you put them in the back seat and tell them, it's okay now, I've got this? That's the real parenting skill. Not punishment, not control, but inner leadership. And it's not just for your kids. It's for your entire life. You'll notice your emails get shorter, your apologies become cleaner, your boundaries get sharper, your presence becomes quieter but more powerful. You'll stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve the explanation. You'll stop answering every text like it's a crisis. You'll stop overperforming for approval and start standing still, rooted, calm, magnetic. This is the power of becoming conscious. This is the gift of individuation. You are no longer living through the echo of your wound. You're building from the clarity of your wholeness. And the people around you will feel it. Your child will feel safer, not because you said the perfect thing, but because you are safe now. Your partner will open up not because you demanded it, but because your nervous system finally stops sounding like a threat. Your friends will draw closer, not because you're entertaining them, but because you're embodying truth. You don't need to control everything to be effective. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to be strict to be strong. You don't need to be hard to protect what you love. You protect it by softening where you once hardened. You lead by being human, fully, fearlessly, consciously. So here's the final decision. Do you keep parenting from your pain, or do you start leading from your healing? Do you keep punishing yourself, or do you start protecting your peace? Do you keep holding on to control, or do you reclaim your presence? This is your Monday morning reset. No more waiting, no more delay. Stop rehearsing the past, start rewriting the script. And remember, I don't owe my energy to everyone. I'm not reacting, I'm choosing. I protect my peace like it's sacred. Put the armor down, stand up as yourself, and lead from the whole.